My name's Albin Wilson. I work at Rome as Chief of Product and Strategy.
Hey, it's Kellen, and today on Diversified Game, you guys excuse the vocals, excuse the video. For those of you who are watching, more and more people are picking up to go to YouTube or Facebook to watch, and we appreciate you sharing the game. I'm having some work done, so I have to be accessible wherever I can be accessible. And today, my guest, though, whether he's in Sweden or if he's in Kenya, his hair and his photography game, he could be a model, an actor, director, but he is really putting some great things together for a company called Rome that I saw on How We Made It in Africa. You know, we've had them as a guest as well, and it's how we get a lot of our information of what's going on in Africa. He's going to tell us how these bikes, how they're changing the game. You know, you can charge your bikes. You can go up to 90 kilometers on a 4-hour charge. Albin Wilson, correct me if I'm wrong, if I got any of that wrong, but welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. We are based in Kenya in East Africa, and we develop mass transit solutions that are electric. So here that's locally buses in a public transport setting, as well as electric motorcycles that are used as taxis or cargo transportation, basically. So that's what we do here in Nairobi, Kenya.
So tell the people, because, you know, when you're young, people don't expect you to like have something like this. So let them know your position. Did you found the company? Are you the billboard for the company? How long have you been with the company? Because to do something in Africa, most people say you're going to lose your whole hat when I talk to them about Africa.
Well, I think, the continent's big, obviously. I think, there's a lot of opportunity across the continent, but especially in Kenya where we're based. It's a growing economy. People are getting more free capital. And, I think for entrepreneurs to do business here, I think it's the next big thing. It was maybe how China was 20, 30 years ago is where it feels like Kenya is now.
Okay. And how long have you been in Kenya, and how long did it take you to learn the language? Because it's a little different than Swedish, Finnish, or English.
So I've been in Kenya for 3 years now, moved directly from Sweden where I'm from. But I have a background growing up abroad and studied my engineering in Sweden. So Swahili, yes, it's very much complicated, more complicated than Swedish. I only know a little bit of it, but in Kenya, it's a good business environment because everybody speaks English, basically.
Okay. And did you found the company?
So I was very early stage of the company. So we've pivoted a couple of times. It was founded by Philip Löfström and Michael Gonge very early on. And I've joined now recently. They founded in 2017, but they worked on basically converting safari vehicles as an entry market play. And now we transitioned the business to buses and motorcycles.
And I want to make that very clear because even my editor who will edit is right there in Nairobi, just right next door to Kibera. And when he sees this and, when they see you on the street and they start, hey, they start, yelling the name and saying, hey, we can edit over there too, or whatever, skills people have. I want them to know, because as you know, you may stick out there.
Yeah, I mean, Nairobi is a 5 million person city, but I hope to meet him.
Yes. But there's only one of you walking down the street, and let the people know, the growth of the company. I know Kenya, you guys are there. Will you go to, any of the surrounding companies? Are you looking at other places in Africa to expand?
Well, I think, what we're really trying to do is saturate the motorcycle and bus market here in Kenya first, and really starting with, trying to do vertical integration of production processes, assembly, and just using, the current supply chain that these markets have and building up Kenya. And, just in Kenya alone, there's 30,000 motorcycles registered every month. So that's a massive market in itself. But Of course, we are looking and doing pilots in other countries, and we do look at the East African continent and addressing that as a whole. They have very similar transport needs, and I think our products fit quite adequately to that.
Now, one of my friends is a lion. I don't know if you were there in Kenya when Lions Den was a real show, but she's my favorite publicist also to hire in Kenya, Olive Gashera. I want to know, the show's not going on right now. Hopefully it get picked back up. But for all the other lions in Kenya and abroad, is there any investment opportunity to get into your company? And what does that look like? And what are the steps?
Well, I mean, we're going more for institutional investors. I think there's always a potential to do that. Right now, we're raising a Series A in the next coming months. So we have lead investors for that, and I think anyone who wants to follow on an investment like that would be more than welcome if they have the right ticket size.
Okay. I have an audience that's one of the main questions, because we actually have brought groups of people to Kenya, groups of 30, as well as South Africa. We're going to Ghana in October with another group of 30, God willing. But after people see Africa and they, do these luxury trips, they see the palaces that they can have compared to America, which you can pay. They always want to say, how and where can I invest? So you've given them kind of a blurb, but can you give them to a range? Because some people think, oh, I have $5,000, like they can get in. And some people have 150,000 or 500,000 and more because they're traditional VC. What range would that start? Because I don't want them to hit you on the DMs or LinkedIn saying I have $500 maybe. What can I do in Africa?
No, so I mean, we're raising around now where we'll probably have a group of angel investors as part of that larger institutional round of VCs. And we're looking at ticket sizes of $50,000 and upwards, I think, for that angel network. But I think it's more upwards than from 50,000.
Okay. Well, and that's a decent start so people can know. So, if you're in Kenya, that's like, you're going to need more than 6 million shillings to jump in the game. But that's the biggest thing. I don't know if I know you've dealt with Americans before, but when Americans go abroad, that dollar starts waving and they start acting like they're king of the jungle, and they can't even tell you the capital of the country in a lot of places. But that's another podcast where I've been.
So we have American investors already from Silicon Valley. So they led our pre-Series A basically. An investment firm called At1. So we deal with American, absolutely.
All right. No, that's good to hear. So the world is connected. What's the biggest challenge in doing business in Kenya for a business like this?
I think it's about building the networks and ecosystems around deploying products, basically. So our biggest challenges are honing the supply chain, the network of actors here locally that we need to get on board. And I think that's one of our biggest moats and protections against competition is that we are able to do that, and we've spent years building up that network, and I think we're in a really good place for scaling, basically.
Okay. You're doing something in Africa that America hasn't even done. And I try to explain to people, especially in Kenya, contactless, M-Pesa. I've been to London, couldn't even catch a bus, me and my family, because we didn't have contactless at the time. Europe and Africa are very advanced in the contactless and the alternative cryptos. Can you tell the people, just where you see kind of the future and what good you're doing for the environment the way you're doing it, because you're switching up the game. But I feel like I'm in the third world when I'm here. And then I go over there and I can't catch a bus, or, I'm like, wait, our cars and motorcycles aren't like this. So where do you see the future for Kenya with, and Africa, maybe the world, with the technology that you're using?
Well, so I think, Kenya already, I mean, obviously the continent's big and they have different conditions and different paths moving forward. But I think Kenya, if I speak for it as we stay here, is, it's really set up for, I think, a digital transformation and a transformation in technology adoption. And what I mean with that is, I think, the development of electric vehicles has gone very, very quickly. And now we have a price point that's, at a point where we can address this kind of market. And what you're alluding to before was basically, Kenya skipped credit cards. They went directly from cash payments to mobile payments in 2006 with M-Pesa. And we think that, with the already 86% renewable production of energy here in the country, which is surprising to many, you can, skip local production of, combustion engine vehicles and go straight to electric. So I think, what we think is that this market may scale even quicker than we've seen others before.
And then my question is, can I get one? Can I order a bike so I can be advanced in the future before, is that possible?
No, so we adhere to Indian and Kenyan homologation standards. So the US is a bit away. We haven't homologated. So testing, it's basically testing for a specific market. And so we stay in Kenya and try to adhere to the rules and regulations here.
Can you explain a little more deeper for the audience? Because I have people, even my wife, she sees like the Kataka truck in Ghana and she's like, can we get one? And I'm like, no. How does that work? And, just briefly for the end user, the layman's like myself, like, how does that work where you can't even ship one, even if I wanted to be like an art piece in my house, that you can't ship it to America? And then if you wanted to, give a range of how expensive that is just to get things, certified, qualified to be sent here legally.
Well, I don't know about American regulation, but I guess you could operate it on private property, probably. I would imagine with, that's how the European legislation would work for a vehicle like this. But, we are really looking at this market here in Kenya and East Africa as a focus. And I think we don't want to take our eyes off the ball and be sending products to America is what we feel and think.
This is a very important thing for the audience, for the listeners or the watchers, because I can remember being a kid and playing like Nintendo, and the kid from Japan who spent like a summer in Japan come back and say, we got Mario 20 already and we're on Mario 2. And you're like, wait, what is Japan? Then, you see all the technology coming from Asia, but now we're seeing things that we can't even get in America. And, that you probably don't know this because you're in paradise, but America's worried about BRICS. They're worried about their dollar system. So, you guys, when you bring your 6 million, 7 million plus shillings over to Kenya to invest, this is why. So you can be in the future because, the world is big. Tell us, with the success that you're having and the best is yet to come, what's a community give back that you are doing or that you would like to do in the future?
Well, I think, our company is based on the fundamentals of that. We obviously are a business and for profit, but I think, with our products, we try to make them as accessible as possible and scale them as largely as possible. And what we've seen with our end users of our motorcycles, for example, is that they actually double their daily income. So that goes directly to school fees and, improving livelihoods. And I think that's a really big part of the largest sustainability we're trying to address with our product. And then, in Kenya alone, 18,000 people die prematurely of vehicle emissions. So I think that's a huge thing we're trying to do with the business. Is just lowering those emission deaths and making generally transport more efficient and affordable, so that we can start building other things here in Kenya and developing it even further.
And is there a franchise model where someone, says, well, maybe I don't want to be an investor in the traditional VC or angel way, but can I buy, 5 bikes and have a region and say, this is my region. And, you know, I'm thinking like the Founders, the McDonald's movie, right? Is there anything like that available?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we work solely with partnerships, so we sell a lot to B2B clients, so people who operate maybe gas deliveries or want to finance the bikes to end users to make them more accessible. And it's going to take a little more than 5 bikes, but definitely.
Do you have a model where you say, okay, since you know it's more than 5, like, okay, you're going to have to buy, you know, 7, 10 bikes. And then do you have anything that people can see and read to say, and this is when you'll make your, you know, you'll break even, and this is what will be your profit? You know, drivers is the hardest part because it's hard for everybody to be consistent when they're working for somebody else, especially. But is there a model like that yet?
I mean, we work with different operators that have different purposes of owning their vehicle fleets, and we try to address the needs of those vehicle fleet owners. I mean, we focus specifically on financiers, as that's a huge enabler for this market because upfront capital is often a problem. But yeah, we try to work with each operator of larger fleets as a sole customer and try to, you know, adjust and adapt our information for them. So I mean, if there's a larger interest, we try to do pilots with them of smaller amounts of units and then build a plan for scale up, basically.
And I'm gonna be bothering you probably later on the LinkedIn, just so you know, because another person who was on How We Made It to Africa, who was also a guest by the name of Christos, he's from Greece, but I'm actually meeting with him today. I live in South Florida. We're gonna meet today for lunch, and the biggest thing is, you know, so many African people want VC, they want the money or they want an investment, but for, you know, maybe $10,000 investment, they can start a plan, or an American can come to Kenya and start a plan and start making money there. I'm going to be bothering you and say, if you got something, send it to me, PDF, white paper, whatever you got, because here, $10,000 in America, it doesn't go you a long way. You know, it just doesn't, but in Africa, it can maybe start a business is what you're telling me, you know, a little franchise model, possibly. We don't, you know.
Potentially, yeah. Depends on what you're trying to do, but yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't want to say too much because then they'll really be hitting you up, say, hey, turn my 10 to 20 by next month. And that would be, you know, that's crazy. So with the buses and the motorcycles, what about your everyday car? Is that something that will be in the next 5-year plan?
I think, you know, why we focus on buses and motorcycles is partially because of the ease of deploying charging infrastructure. So private vehicles is a much more difficult nut to crack in that way. And the reason we focus on buses and motorcycles is that the motorcycles can be charged out of any outlet where you charge your phone. And the buses can actually, you know, they operate on predefined routes. So it's much easier to deploy infrastructure. So I think in the next 5 years, we'll be really working hard on these 2 segments. And, you know, they do have the quickest return on investment for users and also the highest impact as they're vehicles that are used every day, all day, basically.
What I see with the motorcycle, it looks like a beautiful art piece. So the design is great, but I can just easily see like your laptop being connected under or over it. You can take that piece out, go to the office, you know, do what you need to do. I don't know if it can charge a laptop, but because you are, you know, focused on the motorcycle and the buses, and you guys already have M-Pesa, do you see, you know, the crypto market being a big, you know, game changer in the next 5 years because M-Pesa is so large already?
I think, you know, the potential for that kind of technology to be implemented here is much higher than in many other places. I don't think it'll be a fundamental shift for where our business goes. But you know, I think many people are trying to address that need and, you know, quick and seamless as well as you know, low cost payments, and, you know, potentially that technology will play a role in that.
Okay. Well, give the people any last words, because I want them to go to howwemadeitinafrica.com. I tried not to replicate any of the questions there, or maybe remix them, but give them any last words, and so they can, stay tuned for what's to come, and, hopefully become your next VC investors or franchisees.
Well, I think, just check out Rome. We're ROM on many channels, or Rome Electric, and follow the journey of where Kenya is going into the future. And I think it's definitely electric. So thank you so much.
You are so welcome. And not to embarrass you, but to stop any trouble that you may or may not have while in Kenya, are you a single man?
I have a partner already. Thank you, though.
So don't hit him up in the DMs when you go, see you do the name and you see the photography. He's good. No, he doesn't need a second partner and the bride price to come with that. He said he's good. So you guys, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you share this game. It will change somebody's life. Be blessed.
Are you tired of the rat race in America? Are you ready to visit the motherland to relax and rejuvenate? Are you ready to explore all that Africa has to offer? Then check out the brand new Diversified Game Academy course, Prepare for My First Trip to Africa. Are you worried about being able to afford the trip? We got you. We will show you how to travel either on a budget or as a baller. Learn how to stress the value of the USD. Did you know that 100 United States dollars is worth over 1,000 South African rand, or 10,000 Kenyan shillings, or 54,250 West African CFA? Are you worried about taking your kids? Get the game from Kellen Cash, a bona fide world traveler, having traveled to almost 20 countries, several of those in Africa. Get the game on taking your kids on their first trips. Learn how to find the best tickets, get the visas, and plan your own adventures in Africa. Don't let Eddie Murphy have all the fun. Plan your own coming to Africa trip starring you, produced by you, and featuring you. If you are ready for a life-changing experience, sign up for our course today, Diversified Game Academy. Get prepared and purchase at diversifiedgame.com.